don't realize life is not a battle, it's a game. And what I mean by that is, like, I heard about this in like the spiritual video I saw, and it's been sitting with me so heavily because it's so true. Like, even if you think about, I've always heard people say everything in life can be learned, everything's a skill, and that's how it is in video games, right? Like, when you play games, you like every little aspect of the game at first it seemed scary, you didn't know what to do, you didn't have the instructions, and then with time it just started getting easier and easier, and the more you played, the better you got. And so a majority of people just don't think like this, and they don't realize how much is hurting them. It doesn't serve them to believe that life is supposed to be hard. Life is all really, like, even in the video the guy talked about, life is a mental game, and it's so true. But once you can only really see it that way once you understand why, right? It's the best way for me to explain it, right? It's like, in your mind, reality is out here, right? And the concept of your perception bends reality is so true. Everything that you see up here is what eventually will happen out here. Essentially, what happens in your mind is manifestations, right? Whatever you visualize, whatever you see, is exactly what comes out, right? And so, like, something as simple as setting a goal is so important, and I find it so drastic that people don't set goals for themselves, because when you set a goal for yourself, it gives your life direction, it gives your mind. There's a book that I read, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Malton. One of the key points in that book is your brain is a success-seeking machine, and it was built like this. Your brain is so powerful. It's wired for survival. And so when you give your brain whatever question you feed it, it will look for answers. It is not meant to hurt you. And so much people will say, "Oh, my life sucks," this, that, or whatever they say, all these negative, like, depressive stuff, which you know is not good for your subconscious mind. Never ever say anything negative. Like, even when just saying it right now, I even hate that I said that. Well, whatever, right? It's when you give your brain the right questions, it'll find the right answers. And so when you set a goal for yourself, it feeds into your brain, and your brain looks for success. And it's such a fascinating and beautiful thing, because it essentially means you can achieve anything you want in this life as long as you feed your brain the right questions. And so many people just don't feed it the right questions because they just don't know about these concepts. They have limiting beliefs, and it's like those limiting beliefs will really hold you back more than anything, because again, a limiting belief is something that happens up here, and so if you limit yourself in here, you limit yourself out in the real world, right? And so if you've ever heard like millionaires or billionaires talk, they have such strong mindsets, right? They have such strong attitudes towards the world. And it's like when they explain things, they explain it very logically. They explain things in depth, and it's like no matter who's listening to them can understand, even because most of the time it doesn't even have to do with money. But a lot of people, they have a limiting belief around money, and they set themselves not up to lose, but they set themselves up to struggle. And so when all you believe is that I can only get this job, I can only do this, I can only do that, you essentially set your goal. Like, think of a goal as like a bubble, right? And say the bubble is this big in reality, and so when you set yourself a small bubble, you're gonna eventually fill it out with time, right? Like, think of every goal, every time you've had success. Success isn't just like this big monstrous thing. Success is anytime you've achieved a goal. If you wanted to cook a meal and you want to follow a recipe and you did it and it came out, that was success. If you wanted to get your license and you were struggling or whatever, you practiced until you got it, that's success, right? Everything is success, not just money, not just power, not just like a promotion or whatever. Everything in life that you have set a goal out for yourself and achieved is success. Always remember that, right? Because it allows you to build all this internal confidence. But again, when you set small bubbles for yourself, you allow the bubbles, you essentially will eventually fill it out in time. So you might as well set the biggest bubbles you ever can. Set such big goals, it baffles other people. Why? Because eventually you will fill it out. Your brain will look for ways to fill out that bubble one way or another. As long as you desire it enough and you tell yourself, I'll do whatever it takes, and you actually do, you take the actions that your brain tells you, do this and do that. Because every time you tell your brain to do these things, if you don't listen to what it says, you will not get closer to your goals. Your brain tells you that internal gut feeling of knowing exactly what to do, that's your brain telling you the answers that you need to follow and take actions on. And so when you don't, and you start ruining your brain's internal, you have like this internal credibility system, that's how I like calling it, where when you don't follow what your brain tells you to do because you're scared or you're afraid or you're lazy or whatever it may be, you start ruining that internal credit system. And then over enough time, you ruin it enough time. It's just like the banks, right? When you have a credit card from a bank and you don't properly pay it on time, or you overuse it, what do the banks do? They lower your credit score. And so they don't want to give you as much money. They don't trust you as much. So think of that same thing as like your internal. When you don't listen to what your brain and body tell you to do, you lower your internal credit system, your credit score. And so the next time you tell yourself, oh, go do this thing, and it might be even a little bit harder, you don't do it because you don't trust yourself, right? And that's why it's so important to get in this sort of routine and habit of everything that your body and brain desires for you to do them, even if it's so small. And that's what you'll like. If you've ever read like one of those books, like 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, they'll say something as like simple as make your bed, and it's because that builds your internal credit system, which is crazy, right? Because if you tell yourself every morning, I'm gonna make my bed, I'm gonna wake up at this time, I'm gonna stretch, I'm gonna journal, I'm gonna do this, that, and the third, right? You tell yourself to do all these things. Every time you tell yourself to do something and then you actually do it, your brain and body build the internal credit. And so then when it becomes harder things to do, like I'm gonna study for this test for an hour, I'm gonna read this book for 2 hours, I'm gonna go to the gym, whatever it may be, your brain and body will say, I need to do it now, because the trust is there, the credibility is there. And it's so important for you to build that credit system. And then again, back to the main point, it's just understanding you will achieve your goals, right? You need to understand that everything happens up here. If you set yourself small goals, all you'll ever achieve will be small goals. Set yourself the biggest goals you possibly can. Set them so big that like it's almost scares you to say to people. Like if your goals don't scare you, then they're not big enough. Set them so big that people don't even believe you when you say it. It's so fascinating when you're like, and that's another reason why you don't tell people your goals. I've read about how it's like mental masturbation, because when you tell other people what goals you have and what you want to achieve, you get the same amount of dopamine as if you actually achieved it. So it's best to not do that. And so set big goals. Understand that everything happens up here first. Life is not a battle. Life is a mental game. Everything that you want in this life, somebody already has, right? All you have to do is emulate them. As long as you emulate someone, you can easily like find someone who has what you want and literally ask them to be your mentor. Like, and even if you can't physically ask them, follow them. Figure out how to follow them. There's so much people on the internet now who have the lives that you want, and you simply just have to do what they're doing. Figure out everything they're doing. Buy whatever they're selling. It does not matter. Just figure out how to get whatever you want and then emulate it. It's literally that simple. Nothing in this life, you're not discovering anything. You're not Columbus. You're not trying to find a new world or anything like that. You're just trying to simply, like most people's goals, I don't want to say they're typical, they're your goals for a reason, but it's like, believe that your goals are achievable. Don't believe otherwise, right? Don't tell yourself like, oh, this goal is too big, I can't become a millionaire, I can't become president, whatever it may be. Someone else has already done it. These are all constructs in the world already that have happened already. You're not discovering something new. You're not you're not finding a new country. Everything that you want already exists. You just have to go get it. And it's really just that simple. Like, understand success is possible for you no matter who you are, where you are, or what you are. It's simply all a mindset. So one of the biggest things you can do is just expose yourself to the right information, to the right knowledge, to the right people, to the people who have what you want, to the success that you want. Find that information, take action on that information, and just work relentlessly. You can have literally anything you want in this life, but if you don't manifest it first, if you can't visualize it, if you can't understand or believe in yourself that you can't have it, then you won't. Like, the first step is to believe it. Once you believe it, you're already halfway there. I'm telling you, no matter how long it takes, just keep fucking working and you'll get there. I'm telling you. If you just do this, in the end, you're gonna fucking win.